Are you considering which market to choose for your global expansion activities? Maybe APAC region, maybe Europe, maybe US? If yes, today I will compare those three regions and I give you pros and cons of each region. At the end of the episode, I will assign the points for each region and will summarize this. Thanks to that, it will give you a very good idea which region you should choose for your global expansion. My name is Adam Skoneczny and this is Go Global Asia podcast. I've been living in Asia last 8 years, and for last 6 years I've been helping Asian IT companies to expand their business to the global market. In this podcast, I am discussing everything related to IT industry as well as collaboration with Western enterprises. Welcome everyone at my home, at my little home studio. I'm really happy that I managed to build this little area and host you at my home. I feel this is actually step higher, level higher for us to having this podcast now with full video, kind of semi-professional setting, and I hope that you find it much better as well. You can share me your experience in the comment if you like the new format with a video, if you like background, if you like area, if there is something that we can change to improve it. But obviously, this podcast is not only about the visual, about the handsome presenter, it's also about the content. And today we have a really important content, which is choosing the market, choosing the most suitable market for your global expansion. So let me get right into it. So guys, before we started, let me just give you kind of rules of today's episode, if I can say it like this. To be honest with you, I don't really like this word, but for sake of this podcast, let's use this today. So first of all, what I want to do, because in the world we have a lot of country and it would be impossible for me to give you my opinion about each country. That's why I decide to divide the markets for the three regions: APAC region, which is in Asia Pacific, we have a Europe, and we have a United States. So those are the three regions that we will be looking at today, and from my experience there are most potential for most of the companies. Second, I will be sharing with you my experience and the experience that I gained during my last 6 years. Also, I will be sharing with you experience of my teammates, consultant from our organization, who are working directly with our clients. And I want you to keep in mind that experience is experience. However, this experience is based on the facts. So always when we work with our client, we do market research. Market research, it's based on the fact, it's based on the numbers, it's based on the data collected from the different market. So that's when I say on my experience, it's not just based on my opinion, but also on those facts and materials we collected during the many years. So that's the thing. Another thing what is important to share is that there will be few criterias, exactly 6 criterias that I will be estimating, or let's say judging each market on. And the last but not least, regarding each region, when I will talk about, let's say, APAC region. In APAC region, we will have multiple countries that are the most potential. And those countries are Japan, Korea, Australia, Singapore, Thailand, Hong Kong, and Taiwan. Regarding Europe, I mostly focus on DACH region, that means German-speaking countries, Nordic region, France, Poland, and Holland. And then for United States, I will focus purely on United States, excluding Canada or any other regions. Okay, so now we have our rules already in place. You know how I will proceed with this episode. So let me get right into it. And as a first region, we will choose United States. I guess this is really interesting, and most of you are very curious about this region. So let's start with the criteria number one. Criteria number one, it's a market demand. What is the market demand in United States? From our observation, the market demand is still pretty strong, especially taking in account or consideration that in United States, the prices for the IT engineers, they're still pretty high. And there are not top engineers in the world. There are better countries. Yes, so this is the fact. This is not my opinion. So paying high prices for not top talent is not the best solution. That's why there is still a huge market demand in the US, and I am assigning 8 points. Now I forgot to mention one thing. What's that mean? Aim point. Today I will be assigning from 1 to 10 points. 10 point, it's a strong score, and more points market has, then it's more potential, and less point, this is the weak score, and less point the market has or region, it's less potential. Okay, so 8 point, pretty strong market demand still, and this is for United States. Second criteria that I am considering is competition. So what is the competition? And focusing on the United States, I can say that the competition is pretty crazy high. We have onshore companies, meaning the businesses operating in US, and there is a lot of them. Then we have a nearshore companies, and nearshore companies for United States is South America, and in South America we have a very strong players also like Brazil and other that are also competing for this very important market. And the third place is obviously Asia, which is also competing for this market, and the fourth place it's Europe, especially Central and Eastern Europe. The competition in US is very high, and because of that, I am assigning only 1 point. All right, let's move on. Ease of doing business, and let me maybe first explain you what I mean by ease of doing business. If company planning to outsource or work with any other enterprise from the different country, from the different region, um, they need to be aligned. They need to know how to communicate. They need to know how to run business together. They need to be open actually for doing this business internationally, with the next door country or with other continent country. So when I say ease of doing business, it's actually about their openness to engaging with other businesses. And here, if I look at the United States, I need to say that the United States are pretty okay with ease of doing business with another enterprises. And why is that? I base this opinion, let's say like that, on the characteristic of United States citizens. Basically, they're quite pretty open-minded, and their approach to do the business, it's really good. From what I am observing, they're really open to try some businesses. So, for instance, if you pitch some idea to US people and say, listen, I have this great idea about ABC, and they will go, okay, let's do it. However, some other countries, they might say, okay, but how about this? How about that? That's what I'm talking about with the US people. They're really open for trying out new initiatives. And because of that, I am giving them 7 points. Next, we have a cultural fit. And here with this criteria, when I'm discussing cultural fit, I will be comparing it to the Asia, or maybe more specific to Southeast Asia countries. So when when I'm thinking about US people and their culture, and when I'm thinking about Southeast Asia and their culture, there is like quite big misalignment between both of them. The communication is different, the approach to the work is different, multiple different level, perception of time, many differences. And because of that, I am giving only 4 points. 4 points for the cultural fit. Still, as you see, it's pretty high. It's nearly in the midway. Why? Because in US there are many immigrants, and they are influencing local people, and actually they help them get used to working with the Asian businesses. Next is trust. And what I'm thinking when I say trust, it's how business is approaching to collaboration with other businesses, especially with those foreign businesses, especially with those, let's say, Asian businesses. So here we can consider about how they managing collaboration, how they approach into the legal matters, so on and so forth. And here, with the trust and United States, I would say this is pretty high, and I would give it 7 here. And I think this is strongly related also to their mindset, and the same thing what I mentioned about the ease of doing the business, their approach to working with other businesses. It's quite good in my opinion, and I really admire the US people mindset. And again, here it's quite high score 7. And the last criteria what I would like to share and explain in this comparison is cost of operation. And this one I don't need to explain. Probably what does this mean? When we expand in the long term, we hoping to establish office, have some local representative, so on and so forth. And here, when we're talking about US, cost of operation is extremely high, and US will get only 1 point. Okay, so total score for US we have 28 points. So that's it for US. Let me move to second region, and second region is APAC region. As I mentioned before, when I talking about APAC region, mostly we are focusing here about Japan, Korea, Australia, Singapore, Thailand, Hong Kong, and Taiwan. So, looking at our criteria, market demand, let's start with market demand. Market demand, it's not so high as in other region, for instance, as in US. Obviously, APAC region is quite big. Yes, we're talking about multiple countries and multiple markets. But if I take overall of that, I would say the market demand, I would judge it for 6 points. So it's still okay, but it could be better. Like with the US, we had 8 points, so it's still not too bad. But the market demand there, it is existing, especially countries such as Korea and Japan or Australia. There is the demand there, and there is possible to get some market share. Next, competition. So in APAC region, the competition is extremely high because most of those companies, those offshore companies for the US and Europe, they are here. We have India, we have Vietnam, we have Philippines, we have Indonesia, we have Malaysia, we have Pakistan. From Africa, we have Egypt. Um, those companies, those regions, those countries, they are all very near each other, and they're compete for this market here, especially focusing on Japan and Korea and Australia. So the competition is very high, and for the competition, I unfortunately I need to give just 1 point, because it's super crowded area. Next is of doing business. So here, the point obviously is really high, and I give it 8 point. For all companies here, it's quite easy, relatively easy. They doing business very similar way. There are exceptions such as like Japan, Korea, where their business approach is completely different. However, most of this region, they are very familiar how to work together, how to do business together. Cultural fit, I think you're guessing that this is also very high. We have a 7 point for cultural fit. Again, this is the countries that close each other. The culture is very often quite similar, and they understand each other very well. Next, trust. Another area where I estimate quite high because when there is a country next to each other, they can just fly to office, have a look at the office. They know regulation, they know law, so generally they don't worry about the trust. Even though in this region we have many scams, we have many businesses that operate in, let's say, to gently say, not ethical way, if I can call it like that. But because of the distance and because of the accessibility, the trust is still high, and I would here estimate this on 7 points. And the last criteria, we have a cost of operation, and cost of operation. Most of the countries here, it will be quite cheap considering Vietnam, considering Malaysia, Indonesia. The cost of operation is not really high, um, and this is something that is really beneficial. If you want to expand to this market and establish office, it's quite good. However, there are some countries such as Japan, Australia, Singapore, Hong Kong, Taiwan, where the cost of operation can be still really high. So I give in here 7.2. And guys, what can be for you really, really surprising? Total points for APAC region, it's 36. 36 points, very, very high. And then the last region, I guess most of you were waiting, it's Europe. And again, to remind you guys, Europe, when I talk about Europe, I will be talking about DACH region. And DACH region is German speaking countries. Additionally, we have a Nordic region, we have a France, Poland, and Holland. Those are the countries that usually people think about when they want to enter to Europe. And then let's start with market demand. Market demand in those countries is still relatively high. Europe has many countries like Germany, which are the top economies in the world. We have France, we have Nordic countries, we have also Switzerland. So there is a lot of area that it's very, very important for business and for global expansion. One more thing, what you might see, it's I didn't inform about the UK and Ireland, and the reason is that generally my clients, they do not approach this market much because it's mostly occupied by India and the competition is very high. So actually, also for purpose of this episode, I didn't add it here because basically I don't have much experience with that region. So coming back to market demand, market demand, it's pretty high, and I estimating this for 9 points. Let's move on to competition. And competition, unfortunately, also is pretty high. Why? Because we have a local competition like Central Europe, like Eastern Europe, Ukraine, Romania, Poland. Um, this is like huge competition for the Europe. Then we have Asia as well, and because of that, you can see this is the region. It's really crowded. So competition, I give in here 3 points only. Ease of doing business. Um, so it really depends, to be honest with you, because there are some countries that are really, really open and they don't have any hesitation to start collaboration with other countries, such as very often working with Denmark. It's quite easy. Danish people, they're quite open. Holland people, they're also quite open, but they have their own working style, and you need to align with this. German people relatively open. However, France, Switzerland, those are the countries that I that are quite difficult to enter because they're very close. They value their internal business and they don't really allow many external businesses enter. So ease of doing business, it really depends. That's why I give it only 5 points. Next, it's a cultural fit, and cultural fit, as you can guess, it's really misfit between the European countries and Asia. Different culture, different business ethic, different work ethic, and because of that, I only assign 4 points. Next is the trust, and the trust, it's here. It really depends as well. The unique thing about the Europe is that each country there will be quite different from each other, and as far as in one country the regulations there will be so easy and no problem at all, and people will be completely open to work with you. In comparison, then another country, the regulations are so crazy and nearly not allowed in established international collaborations. Because of that, I need to assign only 5 points for the trust. And cost of operation, it's, I can say, it's pretty high. Even setting up in the countries like Poland could be also high, meaning renting the office, hiring the people. Still, prices for this kind of activities in Poland there are high. Plus, the regulations about hiring employees and the employee right. This is also something very difficult for Asian businesses to manage. That's why, because of this, I give it only 3 points. So, guys, summarize. Total, we have a 29 points, and you might see now that this episode is a little bit different than, I guess, than what you expected. Why is that? I guess most of you probably were expecting that number one region to enter would be Europe or US. However, after today's episode, we see that APAC region, in the term of easy to enter the market, it came out as on the first place for us. And yeah, it's a bit surprising, but the fact is, and I can share with you, if you are, let's say, a Southeast Asian company or Asian company and you want to enter some market, APAC region will be one of the easiest for the start. The people, they're quite familiar with culture. The distance, it's not really far. The regulations, they're not really so strict. In Europe and US, we have so many privacy issues, data handling regulation, and things like that, which are making collaboration more and more difficult. But, as you probably know, the real money it's laying in the Europe and US. Obviously, in those regions, this is the places where you can actually charge more, where you can build the huge projects, where the center of technology and growing the new technology, new projects is like, for instance, in US. And then demand is so big over there. So this is really difficult. This is really difficult for many businesses to decide on very early stage which market they should choose. My goal for this episode, it was to help you and honestly share with you the information from my experience, from what we saw with our clients, how it is to enter each of this region. And what I want you to do is just basically analyze this as I analyze it, and looking at your company, at your company's strength, position when you are at this stage, and looking at the market I share with you, the information, and the place where you want to be in the future. So what is your goal? Then based on those information, you can choose and make aware decision which market would be the most suitable for you. Obviously, when you make this aware decision, then the possibilities of successful global expansion are significantly higher. That's why it's so important to go through this exercise, figure out what market is fit to your business, fit for your stage where you are in, and then follow up that path. I hope you find the value in this episode. I hope you like our new mini home studio. With the time, I hope we can get better. With the time, I hope my presenting skills can get better. It's one of the first videos I'm recording. I hope you like it. I hope you enjoy it. And I will see you in the next episode. This is Go Global Asia podcast. See you again.